Good morning, Marissa. How are you?
Morning, I'm good, thank you.
Ace. So Marissa's here from Amazon and going to be talking a little bit about the opportunities for voice from now and over the next decade. So I will pass straight over to you, Marissa.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna go for the sharing of the screen. Let's hope this works straight out of the box. Let's have a go. Okay, Charlie, can you just tell me if you can see that
Yeah,
okay?
that's all coming through loud and clear.
Wonderful. Excellent. Well, good morning, everybody. It's lovely to be here. Thank you very much for having me, Charlie and co. I obviously would have loved to have been in the room along with everybody else, but I find myself sitting in my home office and delivering this presentation to you guys. So I'm going to try and keep it as energetic as possible, given that I don't have anyone other than my dog in the room with me right now. But I'm sure everyone's feeling exactly the same about this exceptional situation that we find ourselves in. So let me introduce myself quickly. As Charlie said, my name's Marysia Chance, and I'm the Alexa developer and industry marketing lead for Europe here at Amazon. And I basically am here today to talk to you about the opportunities that we see in voice and why you should be thinking about it for your brand and why now is the right time for that. So it probably seems quite hard to believe, but Alexa is only 5 years old and actually even younger in the UK, where we launched in 2016. And I want to just quickly kick off with a quote that has recently come from Jeff Bezos, our CEO. And just bear with me a second because I'm having some problems with my mouse getting it onto the right screen. So just bear with me. I'm terribly sorry. Okay, so no customer was asking for Echo. This was definitely us wondering. And I'm really sorry, just bear with me a second, but I'm having some technical issues here with my presentation up on the monitor versus my laptop where all my notes are. So just bear with me. Oh, this is difficult. Okay, we're gonna have to wing it a little bit. Let me see if I can get back to the actual slide that we should be on. Not happening. Okay, I'm just gonna stop my share for 1 second, Charlie, just while I try and sort this out.
Yeah,
Bear
that's
with me.
all good. All good. I think this is actually my first ever live stream, so we've all been kind of learning a little bit. I've got a lot more experience in real life.
Yeah, it's this is tricky. Let me I can't actually move my slides at all right now, so I'm just gonna go back into PowerPoint, see if we can do it that way. Right, okay. Okay, now let's see. Working at my end. Let's see. Okay. Okay, I think we are good again. Can you see my screen now?
Not yet.
Okay, let's try again. How about now?
Yes, we're looking good.
Yay. Okay. Apologies for that, everybody. This is all new to us. Okay. So, where were we? Yeah, a recent quote from Jeff Bezos. No customer was ever asking for Echo. This was definitely us at Amazon wondering. Market research didn't help. If you'd gone to a customer back in 2013 and said, would you like a black, always on cylinder in your kitchen about the size of a Pringles can that you can talk to and ask questions, that also turns on your lights and plays music, I guarantee you that they'd have looked at you strangely and said, no, thank you. So if we'd been in a physical room this morning, I would now have asked everyone to give me a show of hands in terms of who's heard of Alexa. So I'm going to kind of go with a virtual vision in my head and assume that most people are putting up their hands. I'd have then asked who owns a voice assistant, whether that be Alexa or Google Home or any of the other devices out there in the market. And again, probably fairly good proportion of the room putting up their hands. And then I would have asked you who has ever talked to any of their tech, whether that's Siri or Google or even your TV. And again, probably everybody in the room is going to put their hand up at that point. But if we'd been in a room about 5 years ago and I'd asked those questions, I can guarantee you that virtually no one would have put their hands up, because at that point, talking to your tech was frankly just an absurd idea. And here at Amazon, the idea came directly from Jeff himself. Those of you that may know a little bit about him, he's a huge Star Trek fan. And as you know, when you're on board the Star Trek Enterprise, you can talk to the computer and ask anything, anytime, and anywhere, real ambient computing. And Jeff was convinced that the future of interacting with technology was via voice. Why? Because it is ultimately the most natural form of communication, and it's the first communication tool that we learn as humans. And now, 5 years on, everyone is kind of keen to understand the size of the voice opportunity. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about how Alexa fits into that. So in that 5 years, we've really come quite a long way in terms of the technology. And I'm hoping that this is now going to work over this virtual presentation. But I've got two sound clips for you. And one is how Alexa spoke back in 2014. I'm just going to. Hopefully everyone could hear that. And we're now using neural networks to model and generate Alexa's voice from scratch. And we call this technology neural text-to-speech. And I'm going to play you a second audio clip, which I hope you can all hear, so that you can hear the difference. So I think you'll all agree, if we were in the room, hopefully everyone would be smiling and nodding that it sounds a lot better now than it did back 5 years ago. And there are lots of other improvements in the experience as well. And it was great to hear some of the points in the previous presentation about the kind of natural interaction and personality and all those kinds of things. They're the things that we're working really hard on. And by understanding who, what, when, and where, Alexa is becoming much more proactive in making suggestions to users. She can proactively let you know, for example, when you need to replace an essential item to keep your smart home working, like a battery for your smart lock or your security camera, and she can help you place that order. She can send you a notification when it's time to reorder, or you can set up smart reordering to automatically order those supplies before you even run out. And Alexa Hunches was announced back in September for smart home. Here we're using machine learning so that Alexa can proactively suggest relevant actions like turning off the lights when you leave a room. So for example, if one of your smart lights is on when you say goodnight to her, she'll alert you and offer to turn the lights off for you. And really, we're just getting started here. Like all things, this feature will just get better and smarter over time. We've also been building on a technology to train Alexa on acoustic event detection. Alexa Guard launched already in the US, and this tech has neural networks running on device to detect specific sound patterns. So for example, glass breaking or a possible smoke alarm or CO2 alarm going off, and then Alexa can notify you of that detection. So Again, we're really working on, making things more natural and the interactions more natural for our users. So we've launched things like name-free skill invocation so that users don't have to remember the name of the specific skill that they want to launch. So in this example, you would have had to have said, Alexa, ask RoboVac to start cleaning. But now you can drop the skill name altogether and just ask Alexa to start cleaning. And we know that recall of these names sometimes is tricky for our users. Multiple intents. So you can ask her to do multiple things in one intent. So instead of having to say, Alexa, please turn on the lights, Alexa, please play dance music, now you can do it all in one interaction. And then finally, natural retrieval. So this is a natural interaction where you haven't got any specific sentence structure. The command doesn't have to come in a particular way in order to be able for Alexa to respond. And these are real examples of where Alexa is becoming more and more natural for our end users. So I think you'll be quite surprised at the sheer scale of this. Remember again that Amazon started with Alexa just 5 years ago. And in a short time, we've launched dozens of Echo and Alexa enabled devices. Of course, the most famous is the black cylindrical speaker, and that was quickly followed by the cost-sensitive Echo Dot. And they're now the #1 selling speakers of all time, globally from any brand. And it's consistently the most purchased product on Amazon Prime Day, Black Friday, and Cyber Monday. And we didn't stop there. There are lots of other Alexa form factors. We've launched premium speakers, screen-based devices, including multiple Echo shows, Fire TV with Alexa enabled, tablets, smart home hubs, and Wi-Fi routers. Headphones, we've even now launched an in-car device. And then there's some bleeding edge products that we're really kind of playing around with, like the Echo frames, which are the glasses that you can see here in the image, and the Echo Loop, which is the wearable ring. I think perhaps the most interesting surprise is that there are literally hundreds of third-party devices with Alexa built in. We're talking TVs, automotive, telcos, on the go. And there are more than 100,000 smart home products available with Alexa enabled. Nearly 10,000 unique brands that are compatible with Alexa. And she's native in 15 countries, talking in Italian, French, Spanish, German, and devices are sold in more than 80 countries worldwide. But as I say, the third-party embedding of Alexa is the really kind of interesting thing. You can see from the numbers here where we launched ourselves 13 devices last year. There were over 100 Alexa-enabled devices that came from third parties, and 90% of the Alexa-enabled devices that are out there in the marketplace were built by brands other than us. And now there are hundreds of millions of enabled devices worldwide. And for some perspective, just a year ago, that was 100 million. So it's more than doubled in 1 year. And just for a little bit further perspective, it took mobile more than 15 years to get to the kinds of numbers that we're talking about here in just 5 years. So the other really interesting thing is that Alexa is being used. Billions of interactions every week from our customers, and engagement has quadrupled in the last couple of years. So now on to skills. With the ability for third parties to bring their content to Alexa through skills, the experience for our customers becomes even more engaging and rich. Today, there are more than 100,000 skills available in the store, and they include some of the biggest brands spanning across lots of different categories. You can order your coffee, you can order a taxi, you can hear the news, you can hear a language lesson, and it really does go on. And these are just some of the brands that have already built skills and have skills available on Alexa. We're seeing lots of new emerging use cases and categories like trip planners, productivity, lifestyle, health and fitness, and games. And people really love the Alexa experience that these brands helped us to create. And the publishing rate of new skills has really skyrocketed. The developer community is building more skills for Alexa and at a faster rate, from 7,000 in the UK at this time last year to over 30,000 today. And people are using them. Skill engagement has grown more than 50% year over year and nearly 75% since last January. So I wanted to take just a few minutes to talk quickly about voice design. And I want us to assume that you're all going to walk away from my presentation totally inspired and ready to go and build a skill and bring it to Alexa. But we often see developers quickly diving into the kind of technical requirements of building a skill. But the voice design is without doubt the most important element and absolutely needs to come first. This slide's taken from one of our tech decks that I would never normally be presenting, but I thought it was quite interesting. When designers are building an on-screen experience, they tend to use the nested menus similar to those in the image on the left-hand side of the slide. But with voice, people can say and do and go anywhere and say anything. They can go off in random directions that you're not necessarily predicting. And we essentially have much less control. Human conversation is inherently complex. And the other thing is that whilst our eyes expect uniformity, our ears don't like repetition. Ears expect variety, and they really don't like repetition. Ears expect variety, and they really don't like repetition. Now, hopefully by saying that sentence 3 times, you haven't think I've gone completely bonkers on my own in my home office, but just to iterate the fact that, we like to hear lots of different things. And so if you're going to say yes to your user, try and say it in a few different ways and don't repeat yes all the time. And the good news is that you really don't need super complex prototyping software to begin. Scripts, sticky notes, and interactive role-playing are really the way to go. And everyone and anyone can write scripts and role-play them out in the office. This picture's of the team at the BBC when they were working on their CBeebies skill in exactly that way. You can see they've got someone sitting behind a screen and kind of they're role-playing the interactions. And the following slides that I've got are actually from some of the learnings that the BBC have shared from their experience of working with voice, which they've published in a paper called Global Experience Language: How to Design a Voice Experience. Some of the top tips that I've just pulled out from that. Try and anticipate and provide solutions for both under and over answering, because again, you never know what route your user is going to take. On the left-hand side, you've got a kind of two-way interaction. On the right-hand side, the user's giving you all the information up front. And the same user can take you down a different route each time you interact with them. And it's really important that you don't try and feed your visual app or website experience into voice. And I think that's the one thing I would like you to take away from this particular section of the presentation. It just doesn't work. You need to be brief, and using the one breath test is a great way of doing this. You need to be able to kind of deliver your answer in one breath. And in this speech bubble here, you can see what is essentially a perfect response to a customer who's just ordered a pizza via Alexa. This second bubble is kind of more what you would expect to see in an on-screen experience. Now, I'm going to read it out just so that you can hear what a user would experience and try and imagine that you can't see it on the screen. So I will now recap what you ordered. You ordered 1 large pizza. Please say yes if you want to confirm this order, or say no to change it. You can also add our world famous cheesy mozzarella sticks for £2 or a milkshake for £1. Thank you for choosing Uber Pizza. Check out our Facebook page and leave us a like. Try and imagine how you'd feel as a user receiving all of that information with none of it on a screen. And you'd kind of be at the end of it thinking, oh, what do I do next? So it's really important that you think about clear and simple interactions. And give your users definitive choices. Don't make them have to think about what they should say. Also, try and avoid rhetorical questions, and always end on a question that's very clear and easy for the user to recall and answer. So on the left-hand side, you've kind of got this interruption of, trying to be helpful. If you're stuck, just ask for help. But by the time they've got to that, they've forgotten what the original question was. So, try natural interaction. Let's plan your trip. Where would you like to go? Very easy for a user to give the clear one-word answer. And try not to tell the user what to say. But in the first text box here, you've got a whole bunch of options and information that a user just won't remember by the time, again, that they get to the end, versus a nice, clear instruction, but they can answer this very, very easily. And you're going from 19 words down to 8, and it's very natural and flexible. So moving on then, I want to talk a little bit about the future and how Amazon is looking at this and what we're excited about. So we really do see Alexa everywhere. I want to highlight 3 areas where we're particularly excited about in 2020. And that's TVs, smartphones, and automobiles. Samsung and LG announced at CES more far-field TVs coming to the market, and they're on bigger screens. So the experience for our users is going to be just even more enriched. And I've just hit the same problem with my mouse again. So bear with me a second, because I'm going to have to stop and get it back onto my screen. So apologies. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay. There we go. I think we're back. Are we back, Charlie?
Yeah, you're
Great.
back on.
Thank you. It's a really irritating little glitch, that, but there we go. So smartphones. We've got a dedicated team working across that entire vertical that makes up smartphones, from chipset makers to the phone OEMs to the retailers like EE and 3 here in the UK. And then automobile. Already Audi, BMW, Lexus, Toyota, General Motors, Volkswagen, and now for those of you with deeper pockets than myself, even Lamborghini. So why are we, Amazon, investing in this vision, and why are we so excited about it? Well, here's just some initial numbers that kind of I thought were interesting, and there's a whole bunch of these out there that you can pick up on. I just kind of picked a few that I thought might be interesting. So Juniper's projecting $7.3 billion in retail spending via AI type devices in 2020. So that's this year. We expect to see a lot more innovation around shopping and groceries through this year. And PwC is projecting $40.2 billion of transactions made via voice in 2022. And Statistica projects that 1.83 billion people across the globe will be using AI voice assistants by 2021. So that's really like short-term big numbers. And why am I telling you this? Because categorically and emphatically, we are in a phase of voice digital transformation. Your customers are most likely on Alexa. Maybe you're not. So who's servicing the questions around your brand? Maybe Amazon to some degree, but you are the kings of your content and your brand. And there are huge growth opportunities in brand to consumer engagement via voice technology. Customers want your content wherever they are. And if it's not on Alexa, what will they do? So I want to thank you all for your attention so far. I'm just going to close up with a kind of potential customer journey. And whilst I walk through this, I'd like you to think about all the ways that your brand could become a part of it. And I've kind of dummied up. Some of this is stuff that happens already in my household in the mornings, and some of it is, we personally haven't set up yet. But I thought it would be nice to give it a little kind of personal touch. So I wake up to our Alexa alarm, which is engine sounds provided by my husband's favourite car magazine. Alexa says, "Good morning, Marysia. Would you like to start your morning routine?" And she starts with the news and weather update and turns on the TV in our room, which shows my meeting schedule for the day. It's the school mum's social this evening, and it's my turn to host it. So she asked me if I want to add the usual Prosecco and nibbles that the girls consume to my supermarket delivery. And once she's run my morning yoga workout from my favourite YouTube teacher, she turns on the shower. And in the meantime, in my two teenage daughters' bedrooms, Alexa has woken up my eldest daughter with her favourite musicals curated playlist. She's a performing arts student, so that's all we ever get to hear through her bedroom walls. Whilst in my other daughter's bedroom, she's on permanent snooze and repeat alarm. She's definitely not a morning person. And while I'm showering, she started the coffee machine so that when we head downstairs for breakfast, the coffee's hot. Unfortunately, she hasn't quite got to the point of making breakfast yet. I'm hoping that's not too far off. Before we leave the house, she's reminded Evie that it's PE day at school, and so she needs to get her kit, saving us the usual turnaround in the car when we're halfway down the road. And as we leave the house, she tells me that it's raining today and we should all take umbrellas. We do live in England after all. And she also tells me that my train is running late. We forgot to turn the lights off upstairs. The kids are always leaving theirs on, so she'll do it for us. And as we walk out of the door, my husband asks her to set the house alarm and to play our favourite radio station to keep the dog company whilst he's running us all to our respective destinations. She reminds me not to be late tonight as the mum's around. And as we get in the car, I ask my Echo Auto to start my latest favourite podcast. She also gives us some alternative directions to the train station as the traffic on our normal route is bad. And when I finally get out of the car and the kids are deposited safely, I get on the train and pop in my Echo Buds and ask her to continue the podcast where I left off. Time to breathe before I hit the office. Over lunch, I play my daily history quiz on my Echo Show, as I'm currently at the top of the leaderboard for that and I really want to stay there. And before I leave work for the day, I ask Alexa to order my regular mum's night pizzas so that the family are fed and they don't pester me for dinner on my night off. And she should send them straight to the house. I finally settle in at home to wait for the mums to arrive, and by asking Alexa to start my mum's night routine, which involves her turning the mood lighting on and starting my mum's night playlist. She reminds me that there's a great new superheroes movie opening this weekend. My two girls are absolute Marvel and DC fanatics, and the diary looks free, so should she book some tickets for our local cinema? And she also asks if I still want to book that restaurant table for Mother's Day at our favourite local pub. Of course, none of this is actually happening this weekend because none of us can go anywhere, but you know. At the end of a great evening, catching up with the school mums, my husband says, "Alexa, good night," and she turns off the music and the downstairs lights, sets the house alarm, and reminds me that tomorrow is yet another crazy day of doing it all over again. Now, through that experience, there were at least 18 touch points with Alexa from morning to night, and many of them could be taken over by your brand. From the morning alarm sounds to the podcasts, the travel updates and the news, to the grocery orders, restaurant bookings and pizza deliveries. And this is just one day in one household. The possibilities are quite literally endless. And the whole process was completed without once taking my phone out of my pocket or using my laptop or making a phone call or pressing any kind of button. Imagine the number of apps and websites that I'd have had to visited for the same journey. And let me be clear that this experience isn't the future. All this is possible right now, today, with Alexa. And as we say at Amazon, it's still very much only day one. This is digital transformation built for human interaction. Your customers are very likely talking to Alexa, and I would urge you not to let them have that conversation without you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. I can hear a standing ovation in the crowd.
I hope so.
No, it's great and really clearly laid out. We're quite tight for time, but there is one question I want to ask before we break, and
Sure.
we're just I think what would be interesting if you're able to share any insight as to kind of the behaviour change you've seen over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, so obviously a lot more people are at home. One of the great things about Alexa is kind of the light entertainment. We've seen that that's extremely popular. I don't know, some people may have seen in the US, for example, we launched an experience where Samuel L. Jackson is taking over Alexa's voice, and that's an item that people can purchase. And we're seeing those kinds of engagements in general across Alexa are super popular with people. And so as people are spending much more time at home, we're definitely seeing, more engagement with those kinds of things to try and alleviate, I think, some of the stress and anxiety that everyone's feeling right now. So, there's some positives that are coming out of this particularly unpleasant scenario for sure.